Okay, so this is kind of cute. I like the plants and stuff. Oh, it's so cute. Oh my god, what is this? It's a chicken. Oh. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm so glad you stopped by today because it has been so long since I've filmed. Oh my god, it's been like, I think it's been a month and a half since I've actually been in front of a camera. Don't know when this went out, but that's roughly when it was before I finished editing and I posted this, but yeah, it's been a long time. But I'm back to filming. I finally have a new little room. It's a bit smaller. It's kind of echoey because I don't have all my stuff on the wall. I tried to put a few things up, but I still have a lot of blank walls that need to be softer so the audio doesn't just echo everywhere. Now, because of the move, I'm a little bit behind because I've been wanting this game, Palworld, for quite a while. I remember seeing the little sneak peeks of it like a year ago, and it looked so cute. And I had to wait probably like 2 weeks before I could get it after it came out, and I really wanted it right away, but we really didn't even have internet for like a week while we were setting everything up. Anyway, been playing a lot, and I thought it would be really cute to do a plush of one of the creatures, and I thought one that would be just really fun to have sitting on my desk would be the little chicken. So I'm gonna be making one of the little chickens from Palworld. Anyways, let's finally get started. Okay, so ignore the lighting because everything is red because I haven't put up my filming lights. We'll get that worked out eventually. So yeah, everything's gonna have a red tint. I'll try and edit it out as best I can, but there's only so much I can do. Anyway, for this project, we're gonna need 4 colors of fabric: black, orange, red, and white. So not a whole lot of colors, and then I'm just using kind of a minky soft fabric for this project. Something that doesn't have a whole lot of stretch. Now before we can even start on the sewing, we need to get our pattern figured out. So I'm going to try and sketch everything out and figure out how this piece is going to be put together. Starting with the main body, which is going to be kind of like a weird like kidney bean shape. Just a little bit more like fatter and less like curved. So I'm going to get the body sketched out, and then we're going to figure out what other sections we need for the body. Because if I just did this with a left and right, it's going to be a little too flat in one direction, and I want him to be very round. So I'm going to have a strip of fabric that goes around his body, and then have it tapered on each end. So we'll end up using this bean to figure out how long this piece needs to be. What I'll end up doing to make sure that this actually works is I'll take my pattern pieces and I'll tape them together in a 3D makeup of the shape to see if they fit nicely. And then if they work, I can cut them apart and use them to cut the fabric out. If not, we can adjust them to make sure that they fit correctly. So I'm aiming for roughly about an 8-inch plush, nothing too big. And the main reason I've started off with the bean body shape first is because it gives me a good starter point, because everything else is just going to kind of get attached to the bean. So once I roughly know how big the bean is going to be, we can figure out the size of all the other pieces of our chicken. Now, since we have our little paper bean put together in a 3D makeup of what our chicken's going to be, it's going to be a lot easier to size everything out. So I'm going to sketch out what we need for the tail, legs, and then all the different face pieces that we need. Also, while we have the bean together, we can actually figure out where everything's going to get placed, and we can sketch it on the bean to figure out where we're going to connect it later. So like with the feet, I want them at a slight angle when we sew them in place because the toes are kind of spread and I don't want them crisscrossing. So I'm going to get those all figured out. I'm going to mark out where the beak and the little red bits go and the wings. The only thing I'm not going to mark out while we're in paper form is going to be the eyes, because it's going to be a lot easier to figure out how they're going to place once we have the doll actually sewn together. So the eyes are kind of going to be the very last thing that we add. And then once we have all of the different pieces that are going on to our little bean chicken body figured out, what we're going to do is we're going to get our fabric and we're going to sketch out the patterns on the backing of the fabric. A lot of these pieces are just ones that are going to be sewn together and flipped right side out, so I'm not going to really cut most of the fabric out until after I do the sewing. Now, out of all of the pieces that we're adding to our chicken, the eyes are probably going to be the more complex ones, and I'm going to be trying out a few things I normally don't do. What we're going to start off with is we're going to layer our black and white fabric. We're going to have a layer of white, black, and then white again. And the reason I'm having the backing white is mainly just so I can actually see what I'm drawing and I don't have to use one of those white pencils, which I find very annoying. Anyways, I've got these pinned together and I've got the eye sketched out on the backing, and we're going to sew along the middle circle, the little iris section. So I'm going to do that, and then we're going to cut away the excess white top layer. Now this is where it shows that I don't do a lot of sewing machine stuff. I don't know a lot of the fancy stitches and stuff, and this is probably really basic, but I basically want to cover up the seam with a stitch and go around it. So I'm going to be using that and just kind of following that shape to cover up and kind of clean up that line. I don't even know what the stitch is. It just looked like one that looks nice. Again, I don't normally use my sewing machine except for just connecting fabric. I tend to do a lot of hand sewing. Anyway, for having no idea what I'm actually doing and just winging it, I think these came out pretty good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this fabric and I'm going to face it down on another bit of white fabric, and then we're going to go around the outer circle of the eye. We can then cut the excess fabric off, and then we can cut in the backing a little slit so we can flip our eye right side out. And then once I have the eyes out of the way, I can get the rest of the fabric sewn. So I'm just going to sew everything, cut it out, flip it right side out, and then we need to stuff all of these pieces. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my stuffing. I'm going to stuff everything, not too tightly because I still want him nice and squishy. And then I'm just going to close these sections up. So I'm going to take my sewing machine and just close up the backing where we added the stuffing. Now a good chunk of these pieces are actually going to be sewn in place before we even assemble the bean. So like with the wings, I'm going to be taking the more bean section and we're going to mark out where we're going to actually stitch the wings in place. So on the back side of the wing, I have the opening of where I stuffed it, and that's what I'm going to use to connect it. So I'm going to figure out where that's going to be on the bean shape, and I'm going to sketch that out, and then I can mark it on my fabric and cut a slit in the fabric. Then we can just sew the wings in place on each side. Next, I'm going to take his little red crest, and I'm going to take the bean and I'm going to slice down a section of how far the crest is going to go down the back of the bean body. So I'm just going to go down mainly like 2 inches, and then we can start sewing the back section of the crest in place. Once that's in place, we're going to take that strip of fabric and we're going to figure out how much crest is left, and we're going to slice that and then continue stitching that around the crest. So yeah, he's gonna look a little odd for a bit because of the way I'm combining everything, but I felt like this was gonna be the easiest way to put everything together. Next, we're going to take his beak and his little dangly bits, and we're going to stitch those together where we closed him up. And then after that, we can take the pattern piece and we can figure out where we marked out where the mouth is going to be sewn. We can draw that onto the fabric, make the opening, and then we can stitch these in place. Just make sure that you have the beak on top and not the dangly bits. Okay, so I have the beak and the dangly bits in place. They're not upside down. And then I already have it sketched out on the fabric where we're going to add the legs and the tail. I just haven't cut it yet. Because what we're going to do now is we're going to start closing up the shape of the body. And I'm going to do it like back and forth. That way I can make sure that I'm doing it evenly. So I'm going to start kind of with the head section and just sew down each side to a specific point. And then I can continue it once I make sure that I'm not doing it crooked. Now, I did use my sewing machine for this because I wanted nice straight lines that didn't tug, but if it is too much of a struggle, because I really had to wrestle with my sewing machine to get it to fit in there, you could definitely hand sew it. Just take your time so that the fabric doesn't tuck. And then once everything is pretty much closed up except for the very end, I left the very end where the tail connects open. We're just going to slide our tail piece into the body. You want to make sure to double check that it's the correct position, and then we can sew the tail in place from the outside. Now, everything is inside out, of course, and we don't have the feet, but what we're going to do is we're going to cut the fabric where I have it marked out where we're going to add the feet, and we're going to flip it right side out. So I'm going to get that flipped, we can stuff it, and then what we're going to do is we're going to take our pieces for our legs, and we're going to stitch those together. So the front section of the leg and the little back toe, I'm going to stitch those together, and then once we have the body fully stuffed, we can sew those in place as we close up the chicken. And then the last thing we need to do is add those cute dopey little eyes. So I'm going to mark out where I want them. Basically, I'm just going to take them and I'm going to pin them in place on the body where I want them. And then I'm going to sew around them, connecting them to the body. Okay guys, and here is my little chicken. I am so happy with how it came out. It was so cute and squishy. Also, there's nothing breakable on it, so I could just like throw him. But yeah, he also stands up pretty nicely. I did the feet where like he balances quite well, which is surprising because I usually struggle with it. Something like this is usually top heavy and goes whoop. Now obviously I don't own this creature. It is a copywritten creature. This is just a tutorial for you guys to see how to make it. So I can't sell the pattern or anything, so hopefully the tutorial is detailed enough for you guys to see how to make one yourself. I mean, he's got pretty simple shapes, so I think you guys should be able to follow along quite easily. It's mainly just making sure everything is the correct size. The hardest part is his little bean body, but just take your time with it because it took me a little bit of time, and you can always adjust and make practice ones as you go along. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I will probably be streaming Palworld every now and again. We'll see. I really want to start streaming maybe weekly, but it may be a little less right away just because I'm still doing a lot of things and getting settled in, but I definitely am going to start streaming on Twitch a lot more, so make sure to keep an eye out for that. I can't stop throwing him. Anyways, guys, I'm so glad I am back. I can't wait to do a bunch of different projects and stuff. I'm going to be trying to do a bunch of different things that I've been putting off because I was like, oh, it doesn't fit the channel. But now I'm like, I don't really care. I just want to do something fun. So let's just have some fun and see where we go. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye!